Hi Cancer, welcome to your mid-August 2020 General Tarot Update. It's Serena here. Hope all is well. I am going old school on you, doing the Rider-Waite deck. It's been very interesting. It's been giving me a lot of emotional cards, which has been quite fascinating but baffling at the same time. I don't know, like what in the heck? I'm going to pick this one. Okay. I picked an additional card just because of the nature of the Five of Swords. Very interesting. So we have these, we have the centerpiece, a card that is water, the Knight of Cups, with some wands, which is, passionate about something. But we also have swords, which is about detachment and kind of like looking at the situation maybe from a more rational, intellectual point of view rather than getting so caught up in all of the drama of it. So the heart of the matter is Knight of Cups, which is a card of, that romantic individual, dreamy person who may come into your life, present you with love. I mean, look at what that person is doing. They are very kind of in that sense of offering something. And yeah, on the white horse type of a person. So there are many ways of looking at this. This could be like a relationship that you have cultivated with somebody while at the same time being attached to somebody else. And this relationship has given you the courage to leave a relationship that was not working. And in those particular scenarios, you can make the case and say, oh, well, they are, somebody who does that is not being very introspective. They're just going from one relationship to the next. And even if the relationship with the Knight of Cups individual, if this is another person, if it didn't last, it would still have served a purpose, and that would be to leave a difficult relationship. However, I would say that in the past position, this is not a card of necessarily doing something frivolously. It's more of kind of a spiritual quest than anything else. And so for people who are caught up in relationships that are simply not satisfying, it's not the same thing to just go, like if you're having one affair after the other. That's a totally different thing. And to me, this can be in conjunction with a spiritual journey. You have the North Node transiting through your 12th house in Gemini, Cancer, and this may be an ongoing story for the next year or so where things in your life that previously may have been fine and dandy no longer interest you. And there's that sense of needing to, like, kind of, you may be having a spiritual upgrade, having some kind of spiritual experience, and you don't want to just like stay stuck in something that is that you've outgrown. Because remember, with cups, we're talking about the emotional part of life, but part of that is the spiritual. The cups can be the intuitive side. And the other thing is that this can also relate to your professional life for sure. This is one of the areas where it gets kind of confusing because sometimes you might have like this amazing passion for something, and then it just goes away. An example would be teaching, and the reason I'm using this is that that was what I studied, what I thought I was going to be like. I'm talking about like younger people. I never got to the point of actually getting a certificate, but I, had taken many courses in education, and along the way, working in a school as a teacher's assistant and just seeing the changes that had been made by the state government, the federal government, it became clear that that thing that I fell in love with was not what was the current reality. And so those kinds of things cause us to shift gears. I mean, even if you're actually in that profession, you may see the change very clearly. And yet, because you're attached to that dream, it makes it hard to just abandon it. And the same thing with a marriage. If you, or, when I say marriage, a committed relationship where you remember good times and then you think, well, we had the potential to be happy together, so there must be some hope, not realizing that it was a kind of a journey and a process, and it's not at that stage now because it served its purpose, that kind of thing. So it kind of can be confusing at times when you can remember when the situation was much better. The higher message is the Queen of Wands, which is, I always mention this, that she's holding a sunflower, so why is this not Leo? And even aren't those lions by her side? And this is fire energy. And even, are those red things, are those lions too that are dancing together? I can't tell. Very interesting symbolism. If you have any recommendations for good Rider-Waite symbolism, there is one book, and I think I checked it out at a library one time, about the mystic symbols of the Rider-Waite deck, and even that one, it seemed like it didn't have it just spelled out very clearly. I don't know. I can't remember if I even read it properly, but in any case, this is connected to Sagittarius, but I would say to Leo. Anytime I see kings and queens, I think of Leo. Because of what Leo wants to be, too. And the Queen of Wands also has a cat at her feet, so ultimately it doesn't really matter. It's more of the aspect of the fire, but also of the water, because this is something that I'm seeing a theme in this particular spread of fire and water for you, Cancer, and you are the mother archetype, which is what the queen represents. But here we have the wands, which are about being enterprising. In other words, starting something like a business, something creative that has your stamp on it, maybe that you can make money from it, that you gain independence from it. And yeah, the sunflower, whenever I see sunflowers, I think of that creative potential and self-expression, because it's kind of like the version of nature, the tangible version of the sun itself. And in astrology, the sun is our aspirational self. It's what we came here to be and to evolve into, but also to blossom with our gifts, to gift the world with our personal self-expression, not somebody else's, not something regurgitated, but something that's unique to us. And so, excuse me, anything creative that you create is going to be one of a kind. Even if you painted a copy of somebody else's, or if you did a cover song of somebody else's, there would be that unique stamp, unless you really were trying to be like them and you were kind of denying your own personal essence. And of course that is something to avoid. But when people are confused about who they are, they sometimes will imitate rather than radiate their individuality. So all of these things may be coming up, but also just on the more mundane level, the Queen of Wands can be a working mother. So if you receive a job offer after having left another place, do not think outside of the box. Maybe there's something you can do if you are someone who is staying at home with your children, or you want to, and that's why you left, because you feel like lately you've just been called to spend more time with your family. You don't have to necessarily give one up for the other. That's I think, also a big thing to keep in mind with some of this. What crosses you is the Seven of Wands. Now, with the sign of Cancer, I see this more, this might be your own reflex that is working against you, which is self-defense, being defensive. Sometimes, usually when I read this card, I'm actually saying, be careful of people who are trying to make you feel less than, who, are criticizing with the intent of trying to get you to be on the defensive so that they can gain the upper hand. And I do tend to think that that happens quite a bit. But in this particular case, I'll just say, because I'm dealing with Cancer, I do think that the sign of Cancer is so self-protective that sometimes Cancers who are imbalanced, I won't say all Cancers, but those who are going through a lot of challenges in particular, and this is true for all human beings, to one degree or another, of this idea of being defensive about yourself, and being too quick to take offense. And Cancers are not, Cancer is a very sensitive sign, but Cancers can give what they get, and then some. That's the funny thing about Cancer. As considerate and sensitive as they can be towards others, they can sometimes, they can have a sharp exchange with other people when they feel like they have been dissed, ridiculed, what have you. They have a very, Cancer has that very soft inside that may have a hard exterior, but so in other words, I think that tendency to get triggered has to be kept in check. And yet, at the same time, if you're in a situation where it's clear that somebody is demeaning you, that certainly should never be just ignored and written off as, oh, well, that's just part of life. No, for sure, you deserve to have respect and people who are going to appreciate you. And you shouldn't have to explain yourself constantly to somebody, whether it's a boss or a loved one. And so if you find yourself in that situation, then you know that you're doing the right thing by walking away from it. What's coming in is represented by the King of Swords. So this can be advice too, and definitely about marshaling your forces, making a decision that may be very difficult, but a necessary one that, invites you to let go of the sentimentality and just look at the facts, like just the facts, ma'am, nothing else, and making a decision based on that. The outcome card, I did pick an additional card because of the nature of the Five of Swords, and I got this as the outcome, the Five of Swords, and you can see people in the background. What this says to me is that it can be a situation where, let's say you leave a job and then you find out after the fact that you had coworkers who were behaving in a way that was very deceptive. You can see the people there, but even this person, he's got this sort of ass-eating grin on his face. Well, this is a card of empty victory. So sometimes if somebody is making a decision thinking that they're going to get one over on somebody and they find out that they've been had, that kind of happened to me, but I want to make it clear that it doesn't mean that you're in the wrong. So when I had been working somewhere for several years and I really liked what I did, my problem was the people around me, and the management had changed in a couple of weeks before I left, and somebody who was my coworker became my manager, and it became very uncomfortable, and I felt like she was doing things to make it worse. I mean, to really kind of like I fell under duress. And I felt, and so I remember one night my mind was just racing, and I felt like, oh my God, I couldn't take it, And I realized at that point that I had to protect myself, and so I quit. And I thought that it was almost like an empty victory, because I thought that it would cause a lot of problems, because she was about to go on vacation. And what I found out was that, life went on. I was not indispensable. So it wasn't that I was trying to do something in revenge. It was that I felt that I had the upper hand, that maybe it was like kind of a way of bargaining, but it didn't work out that way. And so that can be a situation too where you're leaving, but I don't see that with you, I should say. I don't want to confuse things, because so this may be something that you find out about after the fact, and then you know that you were right all along. And so whatever that Eight of Cups represents, it might have been this dark night of the soul, and realizing that you made the right decision. And with the Knight of Cups too, I mean, this may be you yearning for this type of individual in your life. If you've had somebody who maybe was insensitive, maybe that's what the Seven of Wands in the challenge position is, just having to, that feeling of having to constantly defend yourself, that can get, very, that can make a person very weary. And the outcome is the Six of Swords, which can be physical relocation, leaving behind the, I was going to say chaos, but it's probably more like just kind of negative, inharmonious situation, and choosing peace in your life. Something that's unpeaceful. You can see that the people, there's even children. It can even be like a literal relocation for you. So there might be some changes afoot, but I like the Knight of Cups because it's like you're being presented with something that is coming from the heart. And that's what you've been seeking with the Eight of Cups, Cancer. So it goes right along with that. So I hope that this resonated with you. If you'd like a private reading, I'm, mainly an astrologer. I do have a special combination of 2 full-length readings, one astrology, like natal chart interpretation, and one full-length tarot reading at a special price called the Whole Enchilada, and I have other types of readings. Please click the link below. I'm at rainamoonastrology.com. Take care. Bye.